has this system that he's been using for a while that you guys ever use if?
Steve, it's actually not an IFT.
Oh, come on.
It's a legit Google spreadsheet in Google that runs through the API.
Oh, okay. So James is using the API. And anybody ever used APIs at all? So APIs are new to all of you? Really? API stands for something. An application programming interface. So in this case, I think Twitter has an API. Correct me when I get it wrong, James. So Twitter has an API that you can create an interface to, so that every time James is president, not my president, anytime President Trump tweets, James's API says, oh, I want that tweet, and writes it to his Google spreadsheet. Okay, and it writes, and you can specify the field. So now he's got a Google spreadsheet. He's got a column called tweets, column called date. Tweets has the text of the tweet, a column called date, and whatever else is in there. And you can do it through direct as an API, which is efficient, or if you're lazy like me, you can use this thing called if this, then that. So in his case, so I used to do it this way. You can say, well, if Donald Trump tweets, then, so if this being Donald Trump tweeting, then create a line in my spreadsheet with all these fields. And you can do the same thing. If I get an email from my mother, then turn the lights on in my living room. You know, so you can connect different things. We use that in TiddlyWiki because we can write stuff to a spreadsheet, which we can then import. Okay. So James has a spreadsheet running with all of Donald Trump's tweets, and I think what did I say? There were
3,000.
There were about 3,000 tweets in here now. So that's like a decent number. And so now he wants to start doing things instead of having each tweet as a tiddler, which isn't so much fun. So we were just playing around with this code, and this is interesting if some of you wanted to do something like this. So what we're doing is I created a tiddler called Hillary. I tagged it with search word. So he could have any number of words that he has tiddler titles tagged with search word. And then we print the search word, and we get all the tiddlers that have a value in the user ID field, which is a way of finding his tweets since he forgot to tag them as tweets. And then search in the field called tweets, which is where the text of the tweet happens to be, for the name of the current tiddler, which is that search word. And that search is pretty cool. So you can search in any field. So those of you who are looking for things, you don't have to necessarily write tags. So Michael, this would be helpful for you, right? So you could search for your characters or your people, I forget the names, in the text, right? So if you've got this big text field, you might search for it. So find all the tiddlers that have this person in the text field or whatever field I've got. And then we're just listing it and also listing the tweet field. So here we have all the places that I'm going to modify this. So we'll put the actual tweet in bold, which I think might just be the date of the tweet in bold, and then there's the text of the tweet. Well, that's pretty cool, right? I mean, that's like a really nice interface that you could write in a database program pretty quickly, but with a little bit more effort. So that's an interesting use. And then, of course, if he wants to do a, I don't know, we need another Hillary word. Let's add another word. So I'll go back to Hillary. It's tag search word. I'll clone Hillary. Ugh, what a horrible thought. I'll clone Hillary. What's
Fake-
another word?
Fake news.
Fake news. Okay, so fake news with a capital F and a capital N. And maybe on our find things, we've now got Hillary, all the fake, and here's all the fake news tweets. Okay, so that's actually kind of cool, and you can do that for anything. So that, and I don't think I'd ever shown you the search capability. It sifts through, so you don't have to have things necessarily tagged or identified. You can just use search to find those words. So that's a pretty cool project.
See, I was thinking of a different route though.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah. And then we'll just go around and let everybody kind of share their screen who's in the meeting, and you can come up and use this one if you'd rather too.
Because I was basically going to treat it like a database system.
Yep.
You can see we got the primary keys for each of the tables. Then the foreign key that will tie everything together is President Trump.
Yeah.
More than one of those sheets running with different tweets, collecting hashtags too. So my theory was pick a selection, and it's going to take you to the data card so you can see all the information about it. Then on the bottom, the navigation for next, previous, last.
Yep.
So you can go through each of the cards.
Right. So what I was suggesting, because you were saying that it's annoying and painful and difficult to manually tag each tweet.
Not difficult, just time consuming.
Time consuming, yeah. But if you use the search function, then you don't have to manually tag anything. All you have to do is come up with the words. And you can do exactly what you're talking about without actually having tags. So it's kind of like a virtual. So you're gonna gather tweets in your case, and the first, previous, next, last can take you to the next tweet that's got this word in the field called tweets.
Okay.
And that will just save you from having to manually tag it. And I think I can't remember whose project would have similar size. I know Michael's project has similar size. Maybe Jillian's, when we see it, will be something similar if you have a lot of text. Yeah, and Marcus's has lots of cards. So yeah, but that search function is a way to create a sort of a set of virtual tags.
Okay.
And you could tag them. You could also go through and use the search function to tag the tweets once you've imported them.
Yep. Yeah, but once I make updates to the sheet, it'll write over those, correct?
Correct, but then you import the sheet and then you run the program, you run the procedure again.
Okay.
You import. So you make it so it's like a two-step import. You import and then you modify.
Okay, cool.
So that would be good. Yeah. You want to share your screen? So yeah. So Meg is, Meg's project is interesting because where most of you are focusing on data structures, Meg, and I don't want to be rude, is more of a traditional or like an HTML page writer, right? You got it. We're looking at yours, and likes pink. So Meg likes pink, Chris likes black. What can I say? Chris's pages are always black and impossible to read. I think you're getting away from that, maybe. Huh? Okay. Hers are pink. Like, okay, guys, that's fine. I can sort of almost read the pink, but that's fine. So yeah. So you want to explain what you did here and what the idea is?
So one of my classes we had to write creative. So,
Anybody been in Medici's 417 class ever? Yeah.
So I thought it would be kind of easy and a good way to organize myself to put it in here. So I just created this page. I changed this so when you look at it, it did go as PDF, but not everyone can see it if they're not in class. So I put it into a Google Docs. So if you're interested in what the actual project has to say. Start here. So this is the content my creative brief has. So there's the budget, project overview. So what it is, strategy. So what we're kind of thinking about doing for the product, and the target audience.
So what you're doing though is, you should all recognize it, right? These are tabs and 2-level tabs. Yeah. We're TiddlyWiki here, so not so much content, right? Okay, yeah.
And then there was project. So this it's giving me issues. Like, so I showed you before, and it won't let me. Oops.
Yeah, if you so go ahead to the deliverables. I'll show you how to fix that. If you bring over the macro that's in DesignWrite called tab links, Michael's using it. I think it's called tab links. So if you flip to DesignWrite, do you have that open? And it's really slow loading these days. I apologize for that. I flipped back to UpDog, and UpDog is just deathly slow. So I have to solve that. But we go back to yours. What it does is that when you have a tab, you can move your cursor up a little bit, and there's a edit button. So you can, it takes you right to the tiddler that's represented by that tab. The annoying thing about tabs is you can't get to tiddlers. So yeah, so hit a return after your link project deliverables. Yeah, and then put you wanted a number sign, right? So put a number sign in front of that. And a space, yeah. Okay, and then you has to start on a new line. So hit return with the number. Yeah. And that's what you wanted. Yeah, the numbers are weird. They just whatever. Yeah.
And then here's my project.
Yep.
I changed it up.
And so one of the things I suggested that Meg could do, and I think her next project, she said, is going to be a resume, is begin to use TiddlyWiki as a vehicle for producing a static text. Okay, that's non-interactive. And so the designing and writing an interactive text is for Meg, the author of her resume, but the product, her reader, is going to see it as a static text. And you basically, if you go to any tiddler, so scroll up a little bit in this tiddler and export as HTML. So export tiddler as static HTML, and then open that. And I think if you click on those tabs, nothing happens, right? Yeah, nothing happens because you need TiddlyWiki to do that. But if you just wrote it so that all of your text showed up exactly the way you wanted it, then export as a static HTML. You can send that HTML to people or print it as a PDF or something. So her next project is going to be the opposite of what everybody else is trying to do, which is make these things that you can play with, but she's going to make things that you can't play with. So that's good. Thank you. Yeah. Chris, you want to show what yours is doing? I looked at my phone, but I really wanted to look at my computer to see how much battery I have left. Don't ask me why I was looking at the phone. So what do we got here? Okay, so just remind us of what this is from the beginning.
So basically, I'm trying to
Player's handbook for like what world? Everybody except for me knows what DM is. But what is it again?
DM is Dungeon Master. D&D is Dungeon.
Okay, so this is a D. I maybe said that, I didn't hear it. Yeah. So it's a D&D player's handbook. Okay. Yeah.
Basically, the thing that I important is the spell list. It's like the most expensive thing that I have.
Can you show us how you made those?
All of those are part of this DM's toolbox, which you can go add a spell. And like, even though there's stuff in here, just write stuff in here. It allows you to like re-edit it. That's stuff.
So that's a pretty cool interface. This is actually, these are hard to come by in the real world. I don't consider TiddlyWiki part of the real world, but this is as an interface for editing database records. That's fairly hard to come by, right? Where you just type. Can you type something in any field? Like,
Spell list is the only unique thing about it. Other than like the description.
okay. So anyway, so the spell name, yeah, and I was trying to do this for Alicia's project. It's actually pretty hard what you did.
It's more of an access.
Yeah. Can you show us the code for that?
This is the code of the button, and these are all of like the fields that are like below like, this button.
So it's the $edit command. And you're writing everything into a tiddler called temp. And then in that case, a tiddler called temp and the field called spell. Okay, so you can't edit the same tiddler you're editing on, so he has to write it to a separate temp tiddler, and then when he hits the button, it takes the contents of the temp tiddler and puts it in the spell tiddler. Did I get it right? Yeah. If you look at recent, edit the temp tiddler. That's so he's constantly writing to a tiddler. So there's and the reason that you don't notice it is that because it's a self-contained HTML file, you're not going back and forth to a database, and that's why it's so fast. So cool. Yeah. So thanks for the creation. And what's the spell list? Because that's a pretty cool thing too. Yeah. So here he's, and I think I didn't get to see Derek's message, but he's asking about the list field again, I think. Was that you? Somebody posted something on the list field in the group, but it wasn't. Okay. So how does that work? How's that alphabetical thing work? So that, scroll down and show us your list field. So the list field has all the letters. So in order to get that alphabetical, he cycles through the list field, gets the first value A, and then lists all tiddlers whose start with the A. And that's using the prefix filter. So you can prefix the value of A. In other words, starts with an A. You could suffix if you wanted to. You could ends with an A, but that would be really dumb. Yeah. So that's another aspect of filtering I don't think you'd seen. I don't think we've used prefix much. But I could imagine, who's doing Pokemon? There's like, how many Pokemon cards?
Over 800.
Yeah. So that technique of using the list field to manage 800, when you're over like 10, you begin to need to manage it for your readers. So that list field might be useful for your Pokemon project. Nikki, how many do you have in yours? Classes and worlds? Not 800, but dozens?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and so you might begin to use this technique to manage access into that. So instead of just having a list that you pick on, you can break it down. So what Chris is doing here, he's got them all alphabetical or in different, yeah. His spell list is pretty cool. Let's look at the one by school. So that's a more familiar way that we've been doing it. But he didn't have to go in and tag everything with its first letter. That was going to be annoying and kind of a waste of time. So using the list field helps him a lot. Yeah. And what's the other thing that you were doing? I can't remember what it was. You described something for the next part of the project.
There's this, I haven't finished that. You think you're going to make some demo code for that? The old field plugin as the template.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and you probably even asked me on the list to do it too, and I forgot, right? So right now, let's look at one of your spells. And in that tiddler, go ahead. So edit that tiddler. And the idea is that what Chris did is he has all that code in every spell, which, as a general rule, if you have the same code in your project more than once, it's not as good as it could be, right? Because it's inefficient. You're taking up more space, using more processing time. So we want to move that into a template, and I don't want them to have to delete. I don't want them to have to edit how many spells?
360.
Yeah, I don't want him to have to edit 360, so I'm going to help him by writing a macro or a button actually that will one-time use, will go in, find all the tiddlers, empty that field, save the tiddler, and go on to the next one. And then we can put that code in a template. So it's a one-time thing, so you don't have to edit all those fields. So I'll help you with that. It's a little scary, though, because to test it, if it doesn't work, you know, what if you deleted all your tiddlers? Then he'd be really mad. Luckily, there's a backup. Has everyone found their backups? Is anyone not aware of their backups? Know where it is? Just to make sure, click on your wheel and under saving. No, where's settings maybe? Where's the backups? Oh no, Tiddly Spot Saver tab in the under saving. Tiddly Spot Saver. And there's a link to your backups if you're in Tiddly Spot. And so you can always get to them. I just want to make sure everybody saw that. Thanks, Chris. You want to do your, Jillian? We'll just keep going around. I always think it's helpful to see what other people are doing just to keep track. I'll try to make them brief so we can wrap this by 11. Yeah.
Okay, so I had to write a 6-page paper for IDS 102, which is art and culture. So the project was about finding 2 different cultures with tattoos, tattoo rituals. One had to be female, one had to be male. So suggested that I bring it into so the project outline here, like I said, we had to compare and contrast 2 different cultures. So I picked the tattoo war clubs of the Iroquois Indians and the tattoo women of coastal Guinea. But yeah, so you had to compare and contrast their tattoos, the rituals, how the tattoos were done, stuff like that. So yeah, so I started out nowhere near done, but I want to keep building off of it. Started out just like mentioning about like where on the Guineas, because some don't know, I didn't know. So just talked about it a little bit, and then I had each culture of the women had like their own little like tiddler and a little bit about them and some pictures. And I had these buttons.
What do the next and the back buttons do?
So I have it kind of going in like a sequential kind of thing,
Mhm.
almost like my paper. So I had it go. There's nudity, sorry. So I had it following pretty much how my paper went. So the next and back buttons provide you to go from one part to another.
Can you look at your code? Let's look at the code for that, the back and next.
I took it right off the website actually.
Yep.
So this is for this one.
So those are hand tagged. So every back and next you manually put in the next tiddler.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I wanted it almost, I don't know, like especially for the, because I have the back buttons on the tiddlers for each culture.
Mhm.
And as of right now, it's only bringing me back to the original tiddler that you clicked on it from. So I kind of wanted to see if there was a way that I could just bring it to like the current one that you would be on instead of like bringing you all the way back.
Yep.
to the first
Okay. So what we want, I think what we'll do, so this is great for our first, I think sort of the next round, to me, that navigational thing is right for innovation. So how would you do that? How do you think you might create a navigational structure that would move you forwards and backwards? So if you kept your list of tiddlers somewhere else, and we'll have to think about it. I don't know how to do it off the top of my head, but you keep the list of tiddlers somewhere else, and the next in the previous, or the back in the, right, that should be programmatic instead of having to edit every tiddler to find the next one. So you edit it, you keep all your whole sequence in one place, and then you programmatically get in there. And it could be that when you come to I think what you're saying is you want to come to a certain tiddler, and you want the back and next to be dependent on where you came from.
Yeah.
So that the back and next is not fixed for that tiddler, it's fixed depending on where you came from. Yeah. Yes, there is a way to do that. I believe that when you move from one tiddler to another, the name of the tiddler from whence you came is a variable that's accessible. Hmm? Yeah, it's in the history list. So your history, I think, so it's getting into a part of the TiddlyWiki that I haven't played much with, but there's like look at your wheel, and did you reset the default tiddler info? Did you reset the default tiddler? Yeah, see that story list, $: story list? So grab the name of that tiddler, $:/tiddly list. Yeah, grab that, copy that, put that in your in your search, in the search box, and click advanced search. And there it is on the bottom. Yeah, so look at that tiddler, and edit it maybe. Maybe there's nothing in it. So in the list of advanced search, those are all the tiddlers that you've had open in order. So you could find where your current tiddler is and look at the one before it, and that would be your previous. So go to the end of that, like just copy that whole list, just click in that, yeah. Copy that and paste it in the text for just a minute. And so those are all of the, I don't know exactly what that is, but I think it's what the tiddlers are that you've got in your stored list.
Yeah,
In the order in which you've opened them.
yeah.
And the most recently opened one is on top, I think, but I'm not sure. But that's interesting because now you're starting to, Jillian is beginning to want to interact with the actual wiki aspects of it instead of just the content. So that takes us to another, and that's like a whole nother way of creating an interactive text. So thanks. Michael, you able to join this meeting and share? Or? Yeah. So Michael's projects is pretty cool. These are all really interesting, and what I like about them is they've all gone into different places and explored different aspects of it. So probably every 2 weeks we'll do this just so that we can catch up on each other's projects. Because you'll say, oh, that's similar to what I want to do in a totally different context and in a way that I could never have predicted. Are you able to share yours?
It's like the app is being weird to me.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's you, actually. No, I'm kidding. I think it has to do with the tablet.
Not what I mean, the app.
Hmm?
The Zoom app.
Yeah. Not letting you share?
Weird is, I've given it permission, it's not letting me. The tablet says yes, the app says no.
Yeah. Okay. We'll come back and I'll drive yours. So Eric, do you want to do yours? I had told you 5 minutes. It really turns out to be 3. We each get a 3-minute slot on the podcast. You can make yours full screen, which drives you crazy, but makes it better for us. Yeah, you're on the previous tab. You know what you did is when you shared your screen, you didn't. Yeah, so stop your share. Yeah. And share again. There you go. Okay. Yeah, and you can make that full screen. Thanks. Thanks.
So I took this guy's story. My main point was to re-implicate a reader-driven story. So at the end, each dialogue is choices you make, and you pretty much make choices through the whole thing until you reach ending.
So every choice takes you to another tiddler.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you keep track of your? I don't see any titles or anything here. What did you do here?
So I hid the titles because he didn't put titles for each segment. It kind of just put together.
So can you show them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of you are moving into places where you want to do similar kinds of things. So your tiddler titles are for you as a writer, but not for your readers. And Eric's using that display tab. So click on display. Oh, you're doing fold up? Yeah. Oh, I hate fold.
Okay.
Notice I never even talked to you about fold, but click the display tab. I don't know why I hate fold so much, but yeah, yeah. So that's in DesignWrite. You can drag the display tiddler over, and you have to drag the $ menu home configuration options over. And then it allows you to hide the titles, the subtitles, and the tags. Okay, that's what you would need to do for yours. Yeah. Because you don't want those if you're going to print out a resume. You know, you don't want the title of the tiddlers. So, and Eric's titles are useless to everyone but him. So they carry information for him, but you don't want to share those with your reader. I could see that for a couple of different projects. Yours might, right? Yeah. So how do I get rid of those stupid titles? You need them, and I hate this because you're constantly turning them on and off, on and off, on and off when you're writing, because you want to see what your readers are going to see. So that's a nice technique. And then, and do you have I made a little map for you. Did you see that map that I made for you? In my version of your project.
I read your notes. I didn't see it.
Well, it's
Are you talking about
the table.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you bring that up?
Sorry, I don't know.
Oh, I see. Sorry about that. Yeah, you had it for a second.
Here it is.
Yeah, I'd stopped using. Anybody else use UpDog ever or heard of it? So UpDog is really cool. You go to updog.co, not .com, updog.co. You register either your Dropbox or your Google Drive with it. and it creates in my case, it's a Google Drive. It creates a folder in my Google Drive called UpDog, and I have a folder in my Google Drive called DesignWrite Studio, and then DesignWrite Studio and whatever index.html I put in my DesignWrite Studio folder under UpDog will render is designwritestudio.updog.co/index.html. It's a little slow, and you can have subdirectories and so you can basically use your Google Drive as a web server. And it's free for one site, and I think I pay $3 a month for as many sites as I want. And that's how and then I can throw my TiddlyWikis in there and serve them on the web. You guys are using TiddlySpot as your TiddlyWiki web server, which is, it's a little annoying because it's a little slow. So look at the code. So what I wanted to show you this, if you wanted to follow through and look at this one, some of you might have this kind of thing that you want to do. You want to make a table using HTML tables. I don't know if you know HTML code for tables. It's not too complex. And each row comes from a different tiddler. Okay, so look at the code for this. And it's right there. So HTML code, you open a table, TR is table row. You have to close the table row later on. And then you'll see that inside the next row, I do list filter, story option 1. So it gets every story, puts it in a row, puts a different field in a cell, TD/TD, and you can read table codes. If anybody know HTML table? Ben, anybody else? Meg, you've never done HTML tables? Derek, no? You have? Okay, so you can look at that and figure it out. So it puts the contents inside those TD brackets in a table cell. So it's a nice way to flip through a whole set of tweets, or in Eric's case, tiddlers. And so close that up and let's look at the code. Let's look at the output. So I thought of this as a map. So here's his first tiddler. Option 1 is that. Option 2 is that. And so that just lists all his options. So this is helpful for you, I thought, to have a map of your story.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to say, huh? And then if you scroll down or close that number 1 up, then under number 2, I list all the ones that are ends. And those are all your endpoints. And I was suggesting you have different templates for the end tiddlers and the option tiddlers.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very cool. So this is a branching story. I showed Eric an article. I showed it to Steve, who's not here. There's a whole lot there's theory about tree structures, and so this is a branching tree, and then there's other kinds of structures that are overlapping. So this is like a classic adventure game. Yeah. So thanks. Yeah. Andrew, are you able to jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Then we're going to get to this side of the room.
Is that good?
Yep.
So for mine, the premise of it was for another class I had to do a movie review. This is just a description there. The first thing you would see, I wanted it to be kind of like a slideshow kind of format. So you start off with the introduction, then head to review questions, which is kind of what I would answer in the review. You then go to the movie trailer of the movie that I was doing, which I have the YouTube link here. You then have the review here, and then after that you would go to the comments. Now I don't have the comments working yet, but I'm using a macro that was used in a another Tiddler that is called Best Question, I think is what it was originally.
Was anyone in presentational speaking last spring? Gretchen Creason, you were? Do you remember how you had to evaluate those? That was in Tiddlywiki.
Oh, okay.
Remember? So you'd look at you'd select one to review, and then you'd hit, and it would take you to a Google form. Yeah. And it pre-filled the form. Yeah. So Andrew's basically doing the same thing that you guys are doing. You submit projects, except I didn't have you I didn't write. I was too lazy to have you pre-fill forms. I make you do it yourself. Okay. So Andrew's the reviewer is going to pre-fill a Google form, and then ultimately that gets fed back into the wiki.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is what the form looks like. So you have your name of who did it. You'll have the comment for your intro. I did it so you can comment on each Tiddler that I have.
Yep.
There. I also gave them permissions to look at the other responses
Mhm.
and all that. So
Click on that green box. Oh, there's no responses yet.
no, there's no responses
Right.
yet.
But if you click on that green box there and create a new spreadsheet and hit create, that's the spreadsheet you import.
Oh, okay. Now I get it.
So whenever you fill out a form in Google Forms, it writes to a spreadsheet, and then he's going to import that spreadsheet and make it easy for people to download and do it. So then they'll be able to get all the comments into their own and see their own stuff. So
And if you didn't want to do that, that's why I gave you permission to look at the other responses.
Yep.
So if you did want to download it, you could.
yeah. So now you're two tabs to the left. Yeah. So basically, because Andrew's project becomes a mechanism for creating a writable Tiddlywiki. Given that it's not especially collaborative and it's hard to do this is as best we can do. Yeah. And that's a
I just have to go through the code now and try and figure out how to make it look like it should.
yeah. Scroll down a little bit to that. Highlight that.
Yeah.
If you look at that, see the $ best $, and $ principal $.
Right here.
Yeah. $ principal $. Those are variables that are coming out of your Tiddlywiki. So what we're doing is we're transcluding variables from the Tiddlywiki into an href, which then gets submitted to a form. So it's sort of, again, it's another way of creating some level of interactivity. If in Andrew's case, he wanted people to be able to interact with his wiki, and generally you can't do that, but this is a backdoor way to do it.
The only other way is just get it.
Yeah, which you don't do that, right? I mean, this is dangerous in a way, but it's fine because it's a weird way to do it, but it kind of works, And it worked for Meg's class last spring, and it worked. Yeah, she actually presented that at a conference later on. So yeah, and James, who's listening in, was into. I think he made all the videos, and it was a pretty cool project. There were 25 students in the class maybe, and each one of them made 3 short videos, and then you had to watch the videos and say which is the best of the 3. It was mostly, to be honest, an excuse to make sure that students were watching the videos, and it worked, and it's kind of fun. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, Brandon, what's yours doing?
How do I stop it?
You can't. No, there's a big green. You did it.
I did it.
Yeah, I figured you would.
All right, so I'm making a game, just a simple game out of SVGs. So this is just a test of what the idea is. Like you go through each tile, and I only let you go straight, and I haven't decided on what colors to use, but that would be the whole thing. The eventual goal, I'd assume, would be like go collect 4 items, bring them to an area, and then you'd like unlock a chest or something and leave.
The cool thing he's underselling his project. I mean, really, these are SVG graphics. Can you open that code?
I'll go to this one, I guess.
Yeah, that you're making.
Yeah.
Right, and we did SVGs when you did shapes. Right, really simple 2-line SVGs. These get a little longer. and they're going to be ultimately clickable so that you can basically use Tiddlywiki to navigate through space in a graphic that's all code based. There's no graphics, no drawing involved. It's all drawn through code. And why would we want to draw through code? Why would you want to use an SVG instead of actually doing that as art? Who else is doing SVGs?
They're smaller in size than bitmaps.
Way smaller.
Yeah,
Right.
and they can scale up and down without losing quality where bitmaps can't.
Okay, they fit on different screens, so it will look the same on your phone as it does on that gigantic screen sitting in the student center. Or a stadium-sized screen can be rendered as SVG, so it's platform independent and very efficient, right? Because as a bitmap or as an image, it's going to be really large. As an SVG, it's tiny because it's just text fields. It's just text. So, yeah, it's very cool. And then making a clickable SVG. Has anyone looked at Justin's project it's in the discussion group? Justin Cushing, I think is his name, the county. He's got the New York State counties. That's a clickable bitmap that you can navigate through a map and get to different counties in New York State. SVGs, Marguerite, I think, has those, right? Yeah, so hers. So why don't we just jump to you, and then we'll come back to Ben, since we're going to stick in the SVG land. Yeah, Brandon's SVG is tiny. Marguerite's getting these SVGs that represent the entire world. You have to share your screen, because we're just looking at my heat map picture of myself that I took one years ago, and now it's like, oh, whatever, it's good enough. So that's an SVG. Have you gotten to make it any clickable, or are you still like working through that? Really? Cool. Oh, excellent. Okay. So that's a significant advance. I mean, it takes a long time to load, but that is just all sorts of ugly code. So what's the concept of your project here? Okay, so it's I'm just repeating you because I know if anybody's watching this video, they can't hear what you're saying because of the way that I record it. I can't figure out a different way. It's an interactive star chart. So the idea is you're going to be able to click on those stars and take you to a tiddler that tells you about it, right? Pretty much. Yep. So everything's divided into constellations. Okay, so basically it's a map, click on a constellation, within a constellation, go to a star. Okay, very cool. Yeah, thanks. That's great. Show me the clickable one again? Yep. Okay, and you have to, right now you're hand editing that code, right? Yeah. And it takes forever to open up the SVG code for something this large, so we're not going to bother with that. Yeah, this gets you a little closer to, these are basically games, at least in my mind. I mean, you're navigating through space with different stories. So, yeah, cool. We're going to circle down and come back. So you're last, Ben. Okay. Mickey, you're next, though. Hey, this is working pretty well, that everybody's able to share their screen in this Zoom room. I'm pretty impressed. The Green Project.
Alright, so for mine, I was doing like World of Warcraft. For the first part, I wanted to do class selection, I got most of it down except one part. Then I choose faction.
I'm going to come over here so I can get his voice.
You choose race in your class. And then when you go there, it'll take you to that race in class.
How'd you do that? Can you show us the code for that? Okay, and has anybody else done selects? I don't know if anybody's been doing selects. Basically, it's like an HTML select. So you can close it now and then we'll see it. So it's the select code and then you've got a little pull down. And those pull downs are things that are tagged with faction or tagged with race or tagged with class. They all write a value to a different tiddler, temporary tiddler. And then you use those values to navigate to a particular tiddler that's constructed out of those titles, I think, right? Yeah.
The problem I'm having though is like, if you were to choose a certain faction, you could still choose the other faction's race.
Yes.
I don't know how to fix that.
I do.
Of course you do.
So not of course, I mean, I had to learn it like everybody else. So the way you fix that is that so let's say select alliance, right? Or select a different faction. And after you select that, your tiddler refreshes. So you have to change the code into race for find all the races that are tagged with faction or whatever it is. So you have to make the pull downs so that they would be sequential. You wouldn't be able to choose race first and then faction. So I'll show you that. We did that in somebody's project last year. It's a little, because right now, because you can basically go to things that don't exist is your problem now, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's a realization that you come to when you realize that, oh, well, that doesn't work, so I have to fix that. Basically, open your code up and look at the select for race. So instead of list filter tag race, list filter tag race and you're saving faction in new tiddler faction. You see that up there above? See that? Yeah, so grab the name of your tiddler for the faction from the $ over.
So right here.
Yep, from the $ over. You need the $ and the colon, yeah.
You need the.
Nope, just the $, yeah. Copy that, and then at the end of your filter for race, down on the filter, yep, and before this close bracket, all the way at the end. Next one over, yep, right there. Yeah, right, tag, and then single bracket, no space, paste, and close. No, you need a close square bracket. There you go. Now save it. And that might work. So now, yep, so go ahead and select Alliance. And, okay, so that didn't work, but it's close. It's close. I have to look at your code, but anyway, so it's something like that. You basically have to add more to your filter as you go through.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you get the World of Warcraft picture behind it? How do you do that?
Oh, that was super easy. Just go into your control panel and then into the theme. Appearance. Theme tweaks. And then you add it.
And you put a tiddler in there, right?
Yeah, I imported a photo.
Yeah.
For a picture.
Yeah.
And then let me select it.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would correct with what Mickey said is that it's super easy. Because I think, if you remember, I think the first day I said I try to avoid saying everything's easy because nothing's easy. Once you've done it, it's easy. But until you've done it, it's like, I don't even know where to begin. So, yeah, if you see anything in anybody's things, like, how'd you do that? That's why we have a list. So, yeah. Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out how to do that. Because I saw it do it.
Yeah, no. It's always good to ask that. Yeah, so ask on the list or ask in class. So, yeah, thanks. I, of course, hate it. but I hate everything.
I think it looks cool.
It does. It looks great. It just makes it hard. I just find it makes it hard to read, and it's just distracting. So I usually turn it off. When I'm reviewing stuff, I go and turn I get rid of Chris's themes. I get rid of all the stuff that you guys love to do, and I just make it really boring and black and white. So I can. It is, isn't it? Yeah. No, I love to see it, but then if I try to like understand it or do something with it, it all goes away. Yeah. Michael, what are you doing? Thanks, Mickey. I'll help you figure out that pull down thing. I'm pretty close the way I did it. And if you apply some logic, you probably figure it out. You have to filter for things that are tagged this and tag that. And I'm not sure why it didn't. Yeah. Is everything in a tag or is it in a field? So it's tagged with the race and tagged with the. Yeah. I don't know why that didn't work. Tag. Oh yeah, you have to put the contents of that $:/race or whatever it is into a variable, and it has to be tagged to that variable. Right now it should be tagged to the literal thing, and it's not. Yeah. Remember where I had you write tag and then the square bracket $? Replace the square brackets on either side of that with curly braces, and then we'll transclude the value of that as the tag.
Instead of brackets, just curly brackets.
Instead of the brackets around the $:// whatever, put curly braces. Instead of squares, they're curlies. Do that. I bet you it'll work. Yeah, see if that works while yeah. Michael, what are you doing? Yeah, you do want to share. Can you share yours? Pardon? Are you in the meeting or no? Oh, okay. So when you join the meeting, we'll come back. Derek, what are you doing?
Making Pokédex.
Yeah, Pokédex, 800 Pokemon cards. Are you in the meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Share my screen.
The big green button on the bottom. One says share screen. Oh, color. Yeah, I like it. It's great, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how'd you get the national decks going? How'd you do that?
This tab over here.
Yeah, that's cool.
If you add the code $:/tag/sidebar, it lets you put in an item into the sidebar, and then you just need to add the field list before, and then list again the same code /open, because open comes first, and that'll put it before the word open.
Okay, so close this and go to, just while we're here, go to the $tag sidebar, go to that tiddler, and edit that tiddler, and see that list. That controls the orders of your tabs, and if you wanted to rearrange them, you just rearrange that list. If you wanted recent first, and if you wanted to get rid of things, you can take it out of the list, or you can go to that tiddler and take the sidebar. So if you're tired of seeing tools, for example. But anyway, yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's a good discovery. Everything runs on those tags, basically. Everything's a tiddler, everything's a tag, everything's there. So yeah. How'd you get that big blue circle?
It's just the background image.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This national isn't complete. It'll list all 102, but I'm basing it off of other tiddlers that are just listing certain generations, so when they were released about. So I figured that'd be an easier way, because then.
Believe it or not, some people are not up to date on what Pokemon is and how it works, and the fact that there's cards and releases. I know it's hard to believe, but some of us have no concept of what Pokemon is. I know it's hard to believe, but I might be the only one, probably. But yeah. So how'd you get all those cards in there? Tell me you didn't make them.
Nope, importing using the XLS sheets.
Okay.
Yep. And then I've started setting up the code for it. So each Pokemon has one or two types. So I've started organizing them based off of the type. So from here, you can see that there are 99 Pokemon that are grass types, and it lists them off. And from that list, you can go and see the individual Pokemon. And then,
Okay. And those are all, so, and if you look at, can you close your sidebar? Because that'll give us a little bit more space. So, and what Derek's demonstrating here is using multiple templates at the same time. So he's got a bunch of templates stacked on top of each other, which is nice because then if he wants to change it, he has to change the one template. And that's a, and you can manage the order of your templates by using a list field for the the picture template. And so he's beginning to abstract out multiple templates. So that's a really nice development.
you
And-
can do the same thing as with the sidebar. You can change
Yeah.
the list field.
And so so what you see here is with Derek's project is he's beginning to understand and poke through the idea that all the things that governs how TiddlyWiki works is accessible to you and you can use it. So everything's in tags and lists and stuff, and then okay, and then if he wants to change I said this in the first week of class, and it probably made no sense to you whatsoever. But with Derek, I think we're beginning to see it might make some sense, is that the code that governs how TiddlyWiki runs is the same code that you use to write it. Okay. It would be as if Microsoft Word's code was the same code that you typed in, which just doesn't make any sense at all for Word, but it does here. So the more you learn how to work in TiddlyWiki, the more that you can manage the whole display. So you're like the data that you're creating and the interface that you're creating are one and the same. And you're writing in and with TiddlyWiki. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and can you go back to your filter? Because I didn't see how you did that and how you're getting those numbers. So let's look at that code.
Yeah, so basically I set up on the very top count filter,
Yeah.
and that uses the same search function as my list filter for that. And then the list filter, I'm searching by fields. So some Pokemon will have grass as their primary type, and some will have it as their secondary. So to do that, I just separated them in the list filter as such.
So actually what Derek's doing here, and I don't think we've seen others do that, is notice that it's got two closed brackets after type 1 grass and then a space. So he's running multiple filters so that something can get into that list if it qualifies on any one of those. I think that's an or.
Yeah.
It's like this or that or that or that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an implicit or in the filter, and there's a way to do an and, which I think you
the
get rid of the
plus.
space. Oh, the plus. The plus is an and.
Yeah, so I either want it to be, I want to list all the ones that are
It's-
a grass, type 1 have grass, or type 2 have grass, and the tag Pokemon, and then sort them
Okay.
by national dex number.
So for those of you who write Boolean searches in programming classes, and you do that all the time, the differences between and or matter in filters. So this is how you begin to and or inside a filter.
Yeah,
And what I like about this is I wasn't going to teach that but if somebody's using it, we'll see it. So that's a pretty complicated filter. So that's really cool.
while I'm just here real quick, if you add an exclamation point in front of things, it will say not
Yeah.
grass type. So obviously it's listing now, I just changed the number,
Right.
but it'll say all those Pokemon have a grass type for the second type.
And if you ever need to practice your filters, you know that in advanced search in the filter tab, you can paste in a filter, mess with it, get it just right, and then copy that filter into your code. Instead of, it works. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks. And you're using the link tab, title. Yep. Yeah, I see, because you didn't want, yeah. Link is a little tricky, by the way, $link, and sometimes you want a 2 after it. So $link 2 equals, and that's always there, and it defaults to what's the current tiddler. So if you want text, if you didn't want title, you wanted the caption instead, or another field to be represented as the link, but you wanted it to take you to the tiddler with the name of the field, then you
Yeah.
do link 2 equals title, Like if you wanted just the number NatDex to be the visible text, but you wanted it to take you to the name of the card, then you do a link to equals. So cool, thanks. Great. How'd we get to you? We were going way out of order, but that's all right. Ryan, you're up. Yes. I went out of order. Should have gone from Michael to Ryan back, but that's okay. Yeah. Quest line. Oh God, quest lines. I remember now. When I see the project, oh yeah, I remember this project. This is this. And which game is this? Pardon? Okay.
I have my list of a bunch of different ones. We got this. I have another list with I had that with. I was trying to set this up so that these were fields, which I'm still working on that. Those will eventually be fields. So I'm just using the format that I have set up, just automatically sort those. Then I've got this, which will list everything, and then it's got the complete.
That's the checkbox. Anybody use checkbox widget? So what's checkbox widget? Show us the code for the checkbox.
Okay, it's right after my two buttons, so it's right here.
So what the checkbox does is it gives you a little checkbox with a piece of text, and then in the beginning of his code it says tag equals, so it turns a tag on and off. That's built in. It comes with that. So that's a macro that's built into that comes in the default TiddlyWiki. So checkbox, it's a widget actually, not a macro. It's a widget. I don't know the difference. So you can see on the right, if you click the complete box, go ahead and click. You don't have to close it. Yeah, it just adds the tag and takes the tag away. So Ryan's concept here is it's a way to give the reader opportunity to keep track of what the reader's done. Of course, given TiddlySpot and the inability to save it, we're gonna, you can't save it, but we'll figure out a way to do that. I think for Ryan's, the idea is you guys have all used the TiddlyWiki 5.TiddlySpot to create new TiddlySpots, is we're gonna put that macro in his, so anybody can download, and maybe for Brandon's too, so you can download the game and save your own version of it. Because it would say, oh, create a new TiddlySpot called mygame.tiddlyspot.com, but instead of using an empty wiki, it's going to use the wiki that button sits on. So I have to work on that. So cool. And so, yeah, you've got a bunch of stuff going on in there, right?
Yeah.
Mostly moving things into fields, I think, is your next.
Yeah, so I have a lot of it like typed up or copy and pasted into it. So I'm just right now creating fields and moving it down below. And
that's annoying, right?
Yeah. So I was looking at using a Google Sheet to do it, to put it all in, so it'd be a little bit quicker. But I'm still copying and pasting it from one place to another, so it's still
copying and pasting within Google Sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marcus has a similar issue, right? Is that you have bunches of content that's sitting in your text field, but you want to. You can export it to a CSV, which will give you limited flexibility. If you have an editor, do you use like Notepad or TextEdit or something? Or if you use a fancier text editor that has macros. I use Emacs, which would take you longer to learn than this project, but would give you a lifetime skill. Emacs is this really old Unix-based editor that works on all platforms now that I've been using for like, I think 30 years, and it has the most amazing macroing capabilities. So we could take your CSV file or your text file and write a macro that would basically insert tabs in your fields, and then it would import into a Google spreadsheet, so each field would be in a column. So you could basically write a macro that's go down the line, go over 7 characters, put a tab, go over 12 more characters, or find the next character like this, insert a tab. And you could do that. I think you can do macros and text edit as well. So, yeah, I know. It's like getting things out of the text field into fields is a bit annoying. There might be other ways to do that, but that's how many things do you have?
I don't even know. It's a pretty large number.
And did you type them all into the text fields yourself?
No, a lot of them I copied.
You copied and pasted in,
Yeah.
and so the error was copying and pasting the text field
Yeah,
instead
I
of
should have
separate
copied
fields.
and pasted straight into a Google Sheet.
Yeah. TiddlyWiki is not super great at that. It's the text field. It's deceiving to wanting to do it that way, and then you don't want it that way. So you kind of lock yourself into a structure. You write text processing code, Perl scripts, or anything? You have any friends? If you had friends who wrote Perl scripts, they could probably, or any scripting language, they could script your stuff into the fields as well. Or you could do what you're going to do, which is do it by hand. Yeah. Okay. So we'll stop. Thanks. Marcus, let's look at yours. We have Marcus and Ben, and then I think we'll be done for the day. I hope this is helpful. I mean, I think it's good to see all these projects, but I hope you're finding it useful too. For what is yours? Oh, I remember what yours is.
Yeah, I'm doing the tarot card reading. Right now, I do have that same problem. I just copied and pasted everything because I want to get all the text and then work on the functionality of it. It probably wasn't the best idea. But
Yeah, it's really tempting to do that for projects. How many tarot cards are you working with?
70.
78. So the idea that I take a while to kind of learn this, but do 5 cards. And then they won't work, so you can do 5 more. And then when you know what you want, then do 78 of them. You know, as opposed to, I'm going to get a lot done, I'm going to get all 78 cards built and then work on the structure. And I know James does that too. And it's like, no, you got to build the structure and the text at the same time. You need a little bit of data to work with. And then, so anyway, but that's for the next project. You have to deal cards, right?
yeah, you
need some randomness.
Like you would need a shuffle.
Yeah.
Or something like that, where it deals 10 random cards. Yeah.
Have you looked into that yet?
I've seen some stuff, yeah, but I don't know.
You should be able to use a JavaScript for that.
Yeah, you can. There's probably there's a macro out there for TiddlyWiki called random. I just made that up, but I know it's there. I used it the other day, actually. I think I just added it into DesignWrite Studio, and I think that does random. Because you need to pick, because I'm starting to do math calculus. I think for the next, you should see it in the next day or two, because when you submit your exercises, since they're all coming into the Google Sheet as exercise 5.0x or something, in order for me to put them into different exercises, I have to deal with the submission date. So anything that's submitted between this date and that date is going to get automatically labeled as 5.2. So I'm beginning to do calculations. And I think there's random functionality in that too. So I'll help you with that. Yeah, cool. And we didn't look at Ben's yet, right? We did.
no.
Yeah. Okay. And that's our last one. And yeah, thank you very much for walking through these. And we'll look at Ben's and.
Mine's actually really similar. It's a deck organizer. So it's a little bit of what Derek's doing, a little bit of what Marcus is doing. So I just have the different tabs for each cards. And I had the same problem where I had all the text, but I moved that into fields. But now I want to try to organize them by color, get a randomizer in there at some point.
Okay. Yeah, so you still got your image in the text field. You should put that in the field too.
But the only problem with that is I wanted it to show up when it was on this.
Oh, because you want it to show up in the table of contents, and if it's in a field, it doesn't?
Yeah. That's the only thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's we should figure that out.
Okay.
That would be a question that you might pose. And have you ever looked in the TiddlyWiki Google group? Not the class group?
No, I haven't.
But look in the TiddlyWiki Google group. There might be someone who's addressed that, or you could ask that question. How do I get the contents of a field to show up in a tiddler that's being called in a table of contents?
Okay.
Because that's definitely doable.
I'm sure it is. That's just
I just,
the easiest way I can figure it out.
yeah, no, but we're going for beyond easy.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. And where'd you, are these imports or did you type these in?
I mean, I typed them in, but
The images, yeah. How many cards are there in your,
I
or
think there's 16 or so.
16? Okay, so you're dealing with a relatively small
Yeah,
number.
each of the 15 cards has a color assigned.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not dealing with a lot right now.
Yep. That it's, by the way, doesn't need an apostrophe, but you know, that's just me.
No, I know. It was.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, good. So we'll stop that recording there, James.